For 26 years, humanity has never been absent from space, and the ISS was not just a lab. Hi, I'm the Slavic Witch. Welcome to the channel. I feel like I look very Slavic today, especially with these. Although, I look a little bit like I belong in midsummer. But I promise you there are no dead bodies behind this tarp with flowers sticking out of their eyes. This video is titled, The End of an Era, Goodbye ISS. And that's what I want to talk about. The ISS has been orbiting us for 26 years. But its lifespan is unfortunately now coming to an end. And SpaceX has been tasked with bringing it down. I'm feeling weirdly nostalgic about this because it feels like the end of an era, and that's why I decided to dedicate a video to it. The International Space Station has been up there doing its thing almost my entire life. In fact, some of its parts were launched only a year after I was born. It became functional in the year 2000. I was 3. So I literally don't remember a time when the ISS wasn't there. In the 1980s, the United States planned to build their own space station. It was supposed to be called Space Station Freedom. The Soviet Union had their own space station at the time, and engineers had learned a lot about surviving in space. So after the war, USA and Russia decided to work together instead. Canada, Japan, and the European space agencies decided to join them. This is starting to feel like a history lesson. In 1998, first parts of the ISS were launched into space. And yes, it was functional by the year 2000, but it actually took 13 years of regular launches in order to make it what it is now. It wasn't until 2011 that it was considered complete. But even after 2011, different docking points and labs were added to it gradually. The very first permanent crew arrived on the ISS in November of the year 2000. It has not been unoccupied since then, which means that for the last 26 years, we have had continuous human presence in space. Crews started off smaller, around 3. This had later increased to 6, and now 7. Occasionally there will be 10 to 11 people if the new crew arrives before the last one leaves. It takes the ISS 90 minutes to orbit the Earth. That means they do it around 16 times a day. So they see 16 sunsets and 16 sunrises every single day. So it is about the size of a football field, but this measurement includes the solar panels and the entirety of it, not the actual living and working quarters. The habitable space of the ISS is actually 388 cubic meters. That is just about bigger than an average 3-bedroom UK home, which explains why the videos on YouTube make it look so small. Well, I've looked up the little video vlogs and things like that they make on the ISS. So after spending 13 years building one of the most expensive labs that humanity has ever constructed, what have we been doing up there? A lot of experiments have been done on the ISS, and some of them might be a little stranger than you think. One of the obvious ones is studying the human body and what happens when humans live in space for an extended period of time. So really, astronauts are contributing to some of the most valuable research ever done just by existing on the ISS. The reason exercise is so important in space is that muscles shrink and they can even lose about 1 or 2% of their bone density in like a month without any exercise. This type of research helps us prepare for Mars missions. Growing plants is a big one. So astronauts have actually successfully grown lettuce, I think chili peppers, radishes, flowers, and wheat in space. They also do experiments on bacteria, which is how we know that bacteria behaves differently in space. Another big one is medicine. Turns out that proteins can actually grow more perfect crystals in microgravity. Something I personally find insane is that astronauts deliberately start fires on the ISS. Controlled fires, of course, and it's to see how fire behaves in space. Apparently, flames become almost spherical, which is both completely crazy and yet somehow unsurprising because a lot of things in space take spherical shape. The sun is kind of on fire. Well, it's made of hot plasma, which also is kind of spherical. So it actually sort of makes sense, but yet somehow you're still a little surprised because we're used to seeing fire very differently down here, you know? Water behaves similarly. Without gravity, it creates these floating spheres. Like imagine just little floating balls of water. The International Space Station also allows for research that is essentially impossible on Earth, like studying supercooled atoms or quantum behavior, fluid dynamics, combustion. I won't pretend I know exactly what all of these mean, but I will probably research them for a YouTube short. The ISS is also testing space manufacturing technologies. I mean, imagine a 3D printer in space. That's basically replicators from Star Trek. Even psychology is part of what's studied in space. Living in a small environment with the same 5, 6 people for an extended period of time, you can't go outside, you can't even shower properly, you have no real privacy. So scientists study things like teamwork, stress, isolation, communication, mental health, because these kind of conditions can take a bit of a toll on people. And they're also constantly observing Earth. They study natural disasters from space. It's actually one of the best monitoring platforms we have for our planet. And now let's get into the weird stuff. Did you know that mice lived on the ISS? Mice share between 95% to 99% of their genes with humans. And so this made them kind of perfect for studying human biology on the ISS. And yes, of course, they also study the astronauts, but there's never really a big sample of people on the ISS all at once. Not that many people go up there. So with mice, they were able to get, I think they got about 40. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. So it was a much larger sample size. Reproduction was also studied, but mostly with insects. Although frozen mice sperm was sent to the ISS, spent 3 years up there, I believe, and then they sent it back to Earth, and it was in fact able to produce healthy offspring. So we know for a fact that sperm is still functional after being in space. But there are so many more questions that need answered. If we live on Mars, can we reproduce? Will pregnancies be healthy in 38% of Earth's gravity? If they are, they'll probably be a bit easier because right now this thing is pulling me down. Would babies' bones develop normally? Will balance systems develop differently? Would they evolve into something slightly different due to the environment, or maybe even something completely different? These are very difficult questions to answer because we can't actually test them without really serious ethical implications. All of the knowledge that we've gained is not only fascinating, but it's very valuable, proving that the ISS is extremely important and has massively contributed to many fields. But sadly, it wasn't designed to last forever. When it was built, they did know that its lifespan would be around 30 years. Things wear out. There's radiation, micrometeoroids, the equipment is constantly aging. And yes, some equipment can be replaced, but unfortunately not all of it. So rather than risking failure at some point, it's just easier to bring it down through a controlled deorbit. The way it will work is a specifically designed spacecraft will guide it down into a remote area of the Pacific Ocean. A lot of it is going to burn up in the atmosphere, and the debris that's left over will fall into an uninhabited region. For 26 years, humanity has never been absent from space, and the ISS was not just a lab. It proved that nations who once competed with each other could build something together. It has taught us how to live in space, keep astronauts healthy, how to grow food in space, even how to build in orbit. They used Lego for that, by the way. And even though the ISS is coming to the end of its life, and it feels like the end of an era, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the beginning of a next one. We may be done with the ISS, but we're far from being done with space. The next step is the Lunar Gateway and the moon base. NASA wants to build a deep space service station. So basically the first version of Deep Space Nine. Tell me the future is inspired by Star Trek without telling me. But jokes aside, they plan to use it as an outpost, first for the moon and eventually for Mars as well. And the gateway is going to exist not because the ISS failed, but because it succeeded. It helped us take our first permanent step into space, and this is the next. And maybe one day, people will look back at the gateway the way we look back at the ISS now. I sincerely hope you can't hear the music from the festival that's going on over there right now, but I have to have the window open because it's really hot and I'm very pregnant. Wow.